What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mike Robinson, and this is another episode of Let's Take a Walk. I hope everybody had a great week. I definitely had a great week. Very eventful. The joke I usually tell is that I went to sleep on Sunday and I woke up, it was Friday. But and it kind of was like that. It was kind of a blur. Tonight we have another awesome guest. This is Miss Adrienne Pearl. She is a former school counselor. She is a real estate broker. She is a life coach. She is an entrepreneur. She loads the popcorn machine. She fills the coffee maker. She, washes the cars.
I like it.
Changes the tires and the oil. I mean, you name it, she does it. And so, is it any wonder why I would have her on the show? We definitely got to pick her brain and see if we can catch a few nuggets and just see, why she does what she does, what makes her do what she does. For those of you who may not be familiar with Miss Adrienne, I'm going to give her a moment to kind of reintroduce herself and just give a little background to who she is and some of the things that she has in the works. So with that being said, Miss Adrienne, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I want to thank you, Mike, for having me on your show today. I don't take it lightly, and I'm humbled and honored to be a part of your live cast where we're talking to your audience. So my name is Adrienne Pearl. My company is Pearls Design Properties. And at Pearls Design Properties, what we do is we teach people how to leverage home ownership, to gain equity, to build generational wealth, and to leave a legacy for their families without having to make six figures. So we work with lower middle class renters and take them from having no assets at all to building equity. And then we also work with investors and help them to make lifelong decisions for their families, whether they're doing investment flipping or whether they're acquiring rental properties. So like you just mentioned, I am a former high school counselor in Virginia Beach Public Schools. I was in Virginia Beach for about 10 years as a high school counselor, did my time at Bayside High School over the Health Sciences Academy. During that time, I acquired my real estate license. Beforehand, however, in 2015, I got with my uncle and a best friend of mine, and I ended up actually learning how to flip houses. So I was an investor first, and then he wasn't showing me the houses fast enough. So afterwards, I went ahead during that time and got my real estate license, became a real estate agent while I was still a school counselor. I actually recently transitioned out of the school system last June. So both careers were really demanding. Life was life in the real estate world as well as in the school counselor world. And God allowed me to transition out and do real estate full time. I got my broker's license in January, February. And so now I am doing that as well. I also have add-on services. So not just in reference to the real estate selling and buying, I have add-on services where I do investor coaching. I also have affordable rental properties. I have 2 right now in hopes of in the future getting more. And then I do staging and home decor. That's my second passion also.
Did I or did I not tell y'all that she does everything? She changes the oil. She puts air in the tires. She washes the windows. She
do it all.
She does it.
Do it all.
So where do we start? Okay. Counseling.
Yes.
You started out as a school counselor. How did that come about? Was that a part of the plan, or was that something what's the story behind that?
Honestly, it wasn't a part of my plan. I actually went to school and I went to Old Dominion, got a degree in criminal justice and sociology. I thought back then that I was going to be a big time lawyer or whatever the case is. I love to debate. I'm a Leo far as signs. So that was what I thought I was going to be doing until I started sitting in class and we were doing case studies. And I'm like, okay, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I'm not representing this type of person, etc. That might not be for me. So so I ended up double majoring. So later down the line, but I couldn't find a job. You know, undergrad, they feel like you're overqualified, etc. So I couldn't find a job. So it wasn't until I got with my old pastor. He was a school counselor in Virginia Beach. I love to talk to people and things like that. And so my pastor was like, hey, you might need to go to school to be a school counselor. So he pretty much showed me the ropes. I went to the school that he went to, Cambridge College. It was a satellite campus at the time, allowing you to work full time and then also, you know, with life happening, be a school counselor, or should I say, go through the steps with the education piece of it. So that's what I did. I love talking to people. I'm always giving advice. When I tell you, people talk to me even on a plane, no matter where I'm at, as if they know me, tell me their whole life story. So it wasn't a thing for me not to be able to go into it. I just did not know how much I would love it until I went and got my degree. And then instantly I started subbing first. So that's how I got my foot in the door. I was subbing, trying to get my face out there and, you know, to get to know people and things like that. And I ran into one of the head bosses at that time in Virginia Beach, who I still know to this day, Tracy Jackson. I talked to her on the phone and she said, you know what? Bayside, actually she said Princess Anne, because I was at Princess Anne for a year, and she said they have an opening. I want you to call them. I heard all the good things that you've been doing over there, you know, as a sub, and I want you to call them and then let them know that I told you to set up an interview. And that's how it went from there. So I started at Bayside, did a year at Bayside, and then I transitioned over. Did a year at Princess Anne High School, and then I transitioned to Bayside and spent the rest of my time there.
Wow. Okay. You said a mouthful.
It doesn't always happen like that, though. I'm telling you, it doesn't always line up. So, but you definitely have to put in the work. It was like with me, people starting to see me. They know that I work hard, things like that. But it doesn't always happen where you easily transition and pick up a job.
So what made you stop? Were you burnt? Do you feel like you were burnt out? Or do you feel like
I do. I love the kids. Don't get me wrong. I still go back now and do career day and different things like that. I still try to support them as much as I can. I have a former student this past week that I just attended her graduation because her and her family invited me to it. So I did get burnt out. And on top of being burnt out with all the different things going on, all the demands, COVID happening and that pandemic, and everything just shifted. And so it was just so much that they were putting on us, so much in reference to the paperwork and things that we were having to do. I did not feel like I was connecting with my students, which is one of the main reasons I said I'm going into this. It's about the kids. It's not about me. And so when I got to that point where I felt like that I'm being overworked and I'm not having that relationship with the kids, that's when I said, okay, it's time to start looking other ways. And in addition to me building my clientele and that real estate side of it, it was picking up. So it was hard. It got to the point where it was hard to balance both of them.
Okay, awesome. So from hearing you, just listening to you, everything that you've done is centered around dealing with people, whether it be young people, whether it be, as my pastor would call them, wise.
That's right. That's right.
Wisest. I was reading your bio and it was talking about, it was saying that you had 20 years of customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you left the counseling arena and you went into the real estate arena.
That's correct.
How, if at all, did your experience as a counselor help you as you transitioned into the real estate arena?
So for one, like you mentioned, I come from a call center background. So all of those years I've been in the call center arena, different various call centers, whether it was customer service, sales, team leader, supervisor, selling timeshares to selling products with Verizon. So I did a lot of that. So just having those people skills to talk to people, that's always been my background. In reference to the school counseling piece, I'm going to tell you, giving that empathy and that understanding, because real estate is up and down. Deals may not always close. People are stressed out trying to figure out whether it's on the rental side too. They don't have anywhere to go, things like that. So just providing that compassion, that empathy, understanding, and then just being there for them. I see a lot of it where clients are breaking down, they're crying, they're about to give up, different things like that. And so just having that counseling background, it easily segues into the real estate arena.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. And so you went from a real estate agent to a real estate broker?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So explain to me what a real estate broker. I did the flyer and I put real estate agent. She was like, no, sir.
No. Right. Because
right.
I work hard. I'm gonna tell y'all, if y'all knew what I went through to get this broker's license, and I'll share a little piece of it, which is why I said change that to a real estate broker.
Like you are, listen, you tripping. Can you turn
listen. It's like how you talk to doctors and some of them don't care about you calling them doctor, and then the other ones like doctor such and such. I'm very humble. It doesn't matter, but I went through so much, I'm telling you. So I honestly thought I had my real estate license in November. I had did everything I needed to do as far as passing the exams and things like that. And it came down to me missing one step. And the simplest step that you can think about, which was I did not submit the application, and the extra, I think it was like $200 or between $85-$200 to change the license over. So because I did not do that step, I had to retake, because they only give you a year for each exam. So I kept taking exams, not passing them. And when I finally passed, I passed the state first. And then I passed the national after, where you only get 1 year from the time you pass that exam to submit everything. And so because I passed the state first, that deadline was actually November. And November was the time that I passed. A year later, November was the time I passed national. But I did not do that application. So I had to retake state all over again, which was retaking it, spending more money to do it, and then submitting the application, all because I didn't the first time. No, I didn't even know that there was an application. And that's why I tell people, don't depend on your brokerage. Don't depend on anybody else. You got to do the research too. And that's where I felt like it was a lesson for me to look and go back and make sure I'm following all the application steps once, because I thought I was good. I'm like, okay, I took it. I called my brokerage like, hey, I passed. What else do I need to do? And then what else was doing the application, and I was not aware that I had to do it.
Okay, so explain to us what is a real estate broker versus a real estate agent? Like, what is
the broker? So with the broker's license, your ability is you're taking more classes. So based on being a real estate agent, you have to take a principals class, and then you pass that class, you get a test inside, pass that, then you can sit for the state, national, and state tests. And then you submit whatever documents, you become an agent. For the broker, it is more classes, so more education that you have to take. And then once you do that, you have to sit for the state and national license as well. The ability of the broker, though, the difference is that you can start your own brokerage. So you can go and you can start your own company. You can have agents working under you as the owner or principal broker, and then you go from there. So that's the perk of getting your broker's license, is being able to start your own company.
So teaching people or educating people on how they can become homeowners without having a six-figure salary or whatever like that. That's a powerful gift. But what was that something that you kind of like, that intent? I mean, was that something that you kind of graduated to, or did you understand that that's what you were doing as you were going forward in the process?
I didn't honestly understand until later. So, and I'm glad you asked that question. So initially, like I said, I started as a real estate investor. I didn't even I didn't practice real estate as far as representing other people until years later, because initially I wanted to go into it as on the investor side, right? And so once I started seeing, I knew what I went through when I bought my first house. I bought my first house when I was 23, but it was a horrible experience with the agent, right? And so I knew that going in. And then the second piece of it, there is not a lot of people that look like us. So I came from Lambers Point and lower income housing. My mom was on Section 8, awesome mom, working hard, 3 girls, etc. So in that neighborhood, in that community, everybody was renters. Like there was nobody to show me, okay, this is how you own a house. Nobody around was like owning. So as I started getting older and I started seeing what's going on in the industry, whether it is, like I said, not a lot of agents looking like me, not a lot of people buying that look like me, and also seeing that, okay, I don't know if you heard that statistic where it says about 2053, Black wealth is going to zero.
Wow. No.
And then I also did my research to see that only over 40% of us own versus over 70% of whites. And I said, okay, this is, this is not it right here. And then I started realizing who was my target audience. So my target audience have always been lower middle class people. My target audience has always been investors, because that's who I was. And so that's what made me say, you know what, it's time for me to get in the community. It's time for me to show them. And I know a lot of people don't want to rent. I mean, a lot of people don't want to buy. But those that do want to buy, they may not know. They might be scared. They might have heard so much that, people say, don't buy, don't do this, continue to rent. So it's my job, I feel like, to get into the community and to educate people and say, hey, you can look like me and you can do it too. That's the bottom line.
That's a fact. So what has this whole process done for you personally? Taking away everybody that you've helped, take away everything that you have, and kind of like look at what you've accomplished. What has it done for you inherently, completing this whole process?
God has been, first of all, I'm going to give everything to God. God has been amazing with this journey. Like, never did I think that I would be little old person from Lambers Point. And if you guys don't know, Lambers Point is right in front of Old Dominion. And so back in the day growing up, they considered that the hood. So from someone looking like me, growing up there, knowing that your mom was on, assistance and things like that, to where I am now, I have 3 properties that I own, 2 of which are renters. I used, when I first started flipping, and when I did, flip with a friend of mine, I put my equity out of my house, the first house that I had. And then my friend, she pulled some money out. She didn't own, but she went to the bank and got a loan. She had great credit. And we did our first flip that way. So just the ability to be able to do all those things, looking back at where I come from to now, nobody can tell me that God is not in the mix of it. And then just building those relationships and the connections with people on top of that.
Wow. That feels like it would be very it feels very empowering. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
To be able to go into a situation almost feeling like you have a head start, because you're, like you said, you've laid the groundwork, you've made certain relationships, you've networked, you've worked within the system, and now around the system.
Absolutely.
So you in essence, are kind of an expert in and out of
that's
that
right
situation.
That's right.
So tell us about. Hold on one sec.
And might I plug Black Brand, B Force Academy, They are considered the Black Chamber of Commerce in as well, because when I left the school system, again, like I said, I was a real estate agent, but I did not know. I was still scared, even though God had led me to transition and I was doing well, I was still scared. So I'm just like, okay, what do I do now? What's next for me? So my aunt is a consultant with B Force and Black Brand. And so my aunt said, hey, I want you, my aunt Angela, she said, I want you to apply for this program for your business. So at first I didn't think I was going to get in because I don't have a standard product type of business and things like that. And at that time, I knew the services that I gave, but I only was thinking about, okay, being an agent, on that side of it. So it wasn't until I got into Black Brand, which they gave, it was a program that they do for different cities. Right now, they're doing one for the whole Hampton Roads. You had to meet certain standards as far as your business, your income bringing in, etc. And then you had to apply. So I got into the program. They gave me so many different resources. I mean, like access to bankers, access to lawyers, access to, accountants, whatever you can think about. They had connections, access to marketing people. And that's how I was able to create my video. Shout out to Tony. And so they gave almost $15,000 worth of resources for free. That's how I was able to say, okay, I'm going to start doing packages and putting out my other services like the staging and investor coaching, because I was already doing it. I just wasn't charging people for it.
Wow.
So shout out to them. Anybody that has a business, you've been in that business 2 years, etc. Definitely reach out to Black Brand. B Force is a program that will take your company to the next level. And so they were very beneficial to me over these last couple of months.
Tell me this, okay? What's the most common mistake people make when they come to you saying, "Hey, Miss Pearl, I'm trying to get this house. I'm trying to get a house, or I'm a first-time buyer. I've never bought a house before, so they tell me that you're the best, so I'm coming to you, Miss Pearl." What's the biggest mistake, or not the biggest, the most common? Yeah, the most common mistake that people make when they start the process or in the process?
I would say the most common mistake that I see is them assuming that they may not qualify or meet those standards. That's the most common mistake. So I'm going to flip that around, because a lot of times they call and then they're like, I was told this, or I heard this and that. And then when we have the conversation, their situation may be totally different. And then I'm connecting them to the lender and they say, they're qualified. So that's the most common mistake, is listening to what other people are telling them instead of coming to the experts and letting us educate them and connect them to the resources, etc. Wow. So they wait because they're scared, because they heard what their neighbor or their friend and family said. And then they realize, okay, this process wasn't that difficult, especially working with me and my team. And then also, hey, I do qualify.
Awesome. So Pearl's Design Properties LLC.
Yes.
So what do I get when I get Pearl's Design Properties LLC? What do I get? What can
you're gonna get the top piece is you're gonna get 5-star service. So I challenge myself and my team to make sure that we are producing 5-star service. And that 5-star service is communication, confidentiality, empathy, and understanding, holding your hand. We are giving a white glove experience from A to Z. We are connecting you to resources and experts and everything that you need to take you to that finish line, whether you're buying and selling, whether you're leasing, whether you are going on the investor coaching side, staging, etc. So you are going to get that 5-star white glove experience with us.
Okay. So you mentioned staging. Now that's a term that I personally have never I've never heard.
Okay.
What is it and why is it important, for me as a homeowner? Why is that important?
Okay. So staging usually goes to more so on that, let's say you've already owned the house and you're ready to sell. Or let's say you are an investor and you just flip the property and it's bare, it doesn't have anything in there. So staging is kind of like the home decor. You are going into that property and you are putting furniture in that property so people can envision themselves living in there. Or let's say you have a client that already owns the property, but it might be bare. They have their furniture and stuff in. You come in there with some of your furniture and materials to spruce it up a little bit so that people can then say, okay, my furniture can fit. Oh, it looks good. And they can envision themselves being in there. And then you're taking that property and it's building up as far as your return on it. So it is very crucial to stage a property. Properties sit longer when they're not staged because people can't see themselves in there. They might feel like, okay, this room is small. Will my bed fit in there, etc. So staging is very huge and it's been around for a long time. I didn't realize how important it was until I did a flip and it sat for a little while back then. And then I said, you know what? I need to get somebody in here to help me sell this property. And when the young lady back then, when she staged it, I got about 4 offers within that first weekend of her staging that property.
Wow. Wow.
So staging is huge. I feel like that's my love language. I like the fashion. I like decor. I like decorating and things like that. So staging is like my love language, decorating and stuff.
Okay, so reference. Now we're going to turn from the buyer back to the agent / broker themselves. What qualities should, in your estimation and in your experience in this whole industry, what are like the top, let's say the top 3 things that every agent / broker should have? As far, and what I mean by that is like, personality, whatever. What are 3 things that every broker or agent should have?
I feel like the top piece of it is confidentiality. Your clients got to be able to trust you with this information, sensitive information, feel comfortable and things like that. You're going into people's houses. You're allowing people to come into their house when you list that property as well. So that confidentiality and that care with, their materials, valuables, and things like that, that's definitely at the top of it. Another piece is being trustworthy and honest with your clients. A lot of times I see in this industry that some people are about the bag and they're not about their clients. And at the end of the day, we are working for the clients. A lot of people don't know that, but about 99% of the time we're getting paid on the selling side. So if a buyer comes to me, they're not paying me. I'm getting paid from the commission of the listing agent and the seller side. So just giving them that care and being honest with them and being there with them, that is one of the biggest things that I see, because people chase the dollar. And when you're not chasing the dollar and you're chasing your clients and giving them that commitment, they come back, as well as telling other people about you. And that's how your referrals build up.
Okay. So,
and then the second piece, far as if you want to be an agent or whatever, understanding this role and taking it serious. I saw during the pandemic so many people get into the industry because they saw the houses flying off the hook. Oh, I can make money, I can do this and that. But a lot of people are not giving them the real about it. Like when I first started, like I said, I didn't practice because I was on that investor side, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it for me, buying the houses and representing myself. But you got to pay out these commissions to your brokerage. You got to pay out the fee to your brokerage. You have to pay out a fee to gain access to the properties and things like that. So just being able to afford it and not just jumping into it because you want the money, because you might, as a rookie agent, unless you know a lot of people and you got it going on where your sales are jumping right then and there when you first start, it may take a little bit for people to get comfortable with you before you do a sale. So knowing what's at stake as far as that financial side of it, because a lot of people just get in it thinking they're going to make some money, and then it doesn't work out for them.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes you, like, he putting it even in a more simpler sense. Like I'm on Instagram sometimes, and I see some of these ads that they had. You know, you're wasting your time on your job. You can do this, and you'll get $25,000 a week just by sitting at home. Da 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 da. You know what I mean? I think that we, you know, we allow ourselves to believe, you know, you can get something for nothing. Basically.
That's correct. And if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. Some days I saw some memes on social media recently, and I laughed because some days you're like, okay, great, I got a big clientele, and the next day you feel like you're unemployed, you know. So it can be up and down with the industry. You got to be able to roll with the punches and know how to handle it, as well as know how to handle your finances. Somebody reached out to me before and they were like, hey, I want to go into real estate. I do X, Y, and Z. You think I should quit my job? And I'm like, absolutely not. You got to be comfortable. Like the statistics is saying that most people, the first 2 years, if you can't get past the first 2 years, it's going to be, you know, tough. And a lot of people in the real estate industry that want to be agents and stuff, they don't get past the first 2 years. If you can get past that and go to the third and fourth year, then you're doing something. But it's gonna take some work.
Right. So on the flip side of that, as a customer, as a, you know, a client, what would you say are the top 3 things that I should look for in an agent or a broker? Now we've seen
similar to what I said before as far as the flip side. So number one, making sure that you can communicate with your agent and you're getting that honesty about the process or whatever. So that communication piece is huge, because if you're not communicating and knowing what's going on, the deals fall through or whatever. And I had a girl call me from social media, and she wasn't told the difference between down payment and closing cost assistance. And she was in a transaction and she didn't have the extra money for the other piece. And so it's like, is the deal going to go through? So, but her agent should have told her and walked her through that process. So making sure that, you know, you have somebody that's understanding of the industry and is going to communicate with you. The next piece of it, as far as finding someone, is somebody that's going to go to bat for your behalf, because it's a doggy dog world in the industry when it comes to these houses. They're not sitting on the market long, and then inventory is low. There's a lot of agents, so making sure you got somebody that's, you know, going to roll with the punches for you, and then know how to put those offers in, build those relationships with other agents so that they can, you know, try to call them about the deal before it goes under, things like that. So confidentiality is another piece too. Are you comfortable with them? Do you think that they're gonna, you know, keep your information to themselves? All that other stuff. So it's crucial.
Well, you kind of went into the next question I was going to ask. I was going to ask you, you know, every business kind of has its own culture. And so in real estate business, in your experience, how open is it between the brokerages and the agents? Is it, or rather, in your experience, how open has it been as far as being able to move around, get information, get tips, get help? Oh, you know, my client wants a house on this side of town. Can you call another broker and they tell you, oh, hey, it's a house over here. You know, I seen a house over here that might fit, or blah blah blah. How open is it? Or is it one of them things where it's just dog eat dog? You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to help you. You don't help me.
Right. I feel like it's a mixture of both. I'm glad you asked that question. As far as me, I am at a brokerage where I'm an independent agent. So most of the in my place, most of the company is property management. So it's only a handful of us there, and my broker is at another office. So to be very transparent, that's one of the things I would tell people who want to get into the industry as well. There's going to be so many people people that call you when you get your license to come on board. You want to make sure you found a company that's going to be able to help you and do exactly what you're saying. And so is for me, I have a mentor, and shout out to Cavell. I have a mentor, and I've known Cavell for a long time. He sold my parents their house. The only reason why I did not back then go to Cavell is because I was just comfortable at the company Century Realty that I was at. And so, but I had to call Cavell. It's been plenty of times where I felt more comfortable calling him than my broker, and he's giving me insight, etc. So when you build those relationships with people, they're not going to mind helping you. When you're in a transaction with somebody, for example, let's say I'm in a transaction, it's a seller's agent, buyer's agent on that other side, whoever they are, whether I'm the listing agent or not. If I build that good relationship and that rapport with them throughout that transaction, then let's say, like you just asked, if a property comes on the market that they're listing, etc., I can be able to contact them and say, hey, I got a client for you, whatever. But they're going to go based off of course, who's going to be better for their client, if they're selling it. But they will keep you in mind because they know that you are a great agent. They built that relationship with you. So I have it to where I have been able to build relationships over time because of my work ethic, because of my respect and things like that, where I can call. But a lot of times you might find that agents may not be able to do that, or they don't feel comfortable doing it. So that's a great question, because I do see that a lot, where people might be struggling because they don't have those supports, depending on the brokerage that they are with.
That's very interesting. Like, I'm a homeowner, but I've been in my home for about 4 years now. But I observe how, things are. Like, we go look at a house and it's agent, like, we're coming out, they're going in.
That's right.
A lot of give and go. And then
that's correct.
You were talking about the staging. Now, I never knew the proper term for that, but not once you explained it, I do like the home that we're in now.
Okay.
It was staged, you know what I mean? Because nobody had ever lived in this home before. So they had staging in there, and it made it, it did give you kind of an idea of what
that's right.
Like if you live in
that's right. Made it feel like home. So going back to what you just said, based on you being a homeowner, how do you feel about your first experience? And what would you share about you purchasing now to those that haven't purchased before? What's some of the things you went through?
This is my second home. But,
okay.
I will say that we were fortunate enough to have a really good agent. Her name escapes me at this present moment, but for my first home, the young lady that was helping us was very, very informative. She was very honest with us. She she didn't hold any punches. You know what I'm saying? And it's what we asked for, that's exactly what she set out. The homes that she showed us were basically the guidelines of whatever we asked. And then when we transitioned into the home that we're in now, we dealt with a young man. Shout out to LA Samuel. He was patient with us. I mean, I got tired of looking at homes, man. I got tired of like every weekend, man. It got to a point where my eyes started crossing.
That's right.
Everything started looking the same.
They look the same. That's why I don't say. I stop at about 5 in a day, because, like you said, after that, everything starts to look the same.
Everything started looking the same, and then so, like you said, we had to I think we were doing like 5, and then we went to like 3. And then we came across this home that we're in now, and like I said, nobody's ever lived in it, so we're the first people that's lived in it. So my experience has been pretty good, but basically, to your point, it was because the team that we had was absolutely stellar. Again, shout out to LA Samuel, man. He really did a great job, man. So yeah, that was my experience. And then, afterwards, you deal with that whole it's like the lender keeps changing.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Now that can be a bit
And when you say lender keeps changing, you talk about doing your transaction?
no, once we finish, we start paying our mortgage and stuff
Okay.
like
Oh,
that.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Where they sell off the mortgage.
right.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
They
you
do
might
that a
have,
lot.
yeah, you
Most
might
of them
have,
don't keep the mortgage. They're gonna sell it off. I had it to where I had my company. They sold it, then they sold it back to them again.
right.
So yeah, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that's interesting. Um, that's a good thing that's a good thing to bring up. We had a friend who her and her husband owned this home for I don't know how many years, beautiful home. And some type of way, the lenders whoever they were paying their mortgage to, I don't know if they disappeared. I don't know if they
Okay.
went out of business. I don't know what it was. But at the end of the day, nobody knew who the house belonged to. So for
Oh,
like 2 years, they didn't pay any mortgage at all.
oh,
So
that's
like,
new to me.
is that something that you've experienced, or have you ever heard of it?
Never heard of it. I'm not saying it doesn't happen because everything happens.
Mhm.
But I haven't heard of it. None of my clients, and I have the relationships with my clients where they can feel comfortable calling me even after the fact. Whether it's tax related or whatever the case is. But most times we tell them during the transaction, especially at closing, that your loan might get sold to another lender. But what they usually do is before they sell it to someone else, they send you a notice. So they give you enough time where you can prepare to send to the other person. So that is new to me that they for 2 years. What happened after that? Did it go
Well,
into foreclosure or anything like that?
no.
Oh,
Coincidentally, they ended up breaking up.
okay.
So he moved out. She ended up moving out, and the house ended up burning down.
Oh my
To be
goodness.
honest, it ended up burning down. But so I don't know. Uh,
Yeah, that's rare for you to get your mortgage sold because let me tell you, if you're not paying that mortgage, eventually that foreclosure process is going to start. And then the bank takes back over takes back over your property, or they put it up for auction and things like that. That's why I asked, because
right.
2 years, usually it would have been in foreclosure and auction and stuff like
Right.
that. So
Nobody
wow.
nobody had any paperwork. Nobody knew, and they reached out, but nobody
Mm-hmm.
nobody knew. Nobody knew who the house. Nobody could take ownership. Say outright ownership of
Right, which bank? Nobody knew which bank or
right.
lender
So
owned it. Yeah.
which left them like whatever. But
Right. They probably was stacking the money like, okay, I don't
right,
have to pay. I'm living free. I have never heard that before.
right.
But like I
So
said, everything happens. So I won't be surprised.
right. So back to I kind of want to add on to a question that I asked before. As a potential home buyer,
Mm-hmm.
what are some things that I should do that every home buyer should do, potential home buyer should do prior to even talking to you? What are some
Good
things that
question. Good question. And I just had my first time home buyer seminar, so I'm excited about that because we talked about this piece in the seminar, and then we gave out some grants for potential buyers. We gave out three $1,000 grants for future buyers to help in their journey. So the first thing I would say is to get your finances in order, whether it's your bank accounts, making sure that you understand what's happening with your bank accounts. One of the bankers mentioned, because I had my banker there, Lafayette mentioned too, that you might want to have a separate bank account set aside for that, so that because a lot of times when you are applying for a mortgage, your bank or your lender is going to ask for those statements, and they're going to look at the traffic going in and out. So just making making sure your finances are in order, making sure your credit is in order, and you know where you stand. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, they give out one free credit report, so you can definitely go up there and see what's happening on that side, because credit does play a factor in the homebound process. So getting that in order, and then also thinking about what you are trying to do. What's your goal for this house? Are you going to stay in it for a year, 2 years? Is this going to be a house that you're going to be in for a really long time? So just trying to figure out where you are and if this is the right time or right process for you. So I would say those are the things that you want to do beforehand.
Okay. Yeah, it's always it's always funny because you feel like you're all, I know in the process when we were buying, it seemed like we would turn in everything that they asked us to.
Yes.
And then you get a call and be like, okay, we just need one more thing.
That's right. It's gonna happen. Listen, it is gonna happen. I have one client and she is so organized. She has a little folder. We've done two deals together so far. She has a folder that she keeps everything in, and she is prepared. But everybody else isn't like that. So you might have to scramble to get your documents in order, whether it's your W-2s, tax returns, and things like that. But I would definitely say, start working on those things and getting those in order, because they're going to keep asking for information. Those underwriters, they want to make sure you are who you say you are, you qualify, etc. Right. So I remember when I bought this house, I don't know what I put on the application, but my lender came back, Tanya with Alcova Mortgage, she came back and said, "Hey, Adrienne, I see where you wrote Miss. You've never been married before, right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm single." And she said, "Okay, I need you to send a letter, right? Just write up a letter saying, I'm single, never been married." So that was just, I'm like, man, what did I put on the application? So it's a lot of information that they ask for. Clients get stressed out all the time. They're like, "I don't want to do this anymore." And I'm like, listen, send it to them. Let me walk you through it. So once you get those keys, everything that you did in reference to the paperwork and stuff goes out the window.
That's a fact.
Goes out the window.
Let's talk about Adrienne Pearl, the person.
Yes.
Let's talk about you as an individual. If you had to name one thing that you learned about yourself that you didn't necessarily know prior to going into all this, what's one thing that you could point to and say, "Hey, I did not know that I could do such and such," or "I didn't know that I could feel or be such and such"? What if you had to point to one thing, what would that be?
I would say, like your hat, we talked about that before the recording started. Yeah. Faith over fear. That has been my go-to for the longest time, because I just, I'm not going to say things fear me, because I'm telling you, I came from a world, whether it's, like I said, call center, but I was the type of person, I'm going to figure out how to get, be a business owner or get money. So I was selling garments back in the day with Body Magic and all those different garments that the people do now. I was, whatever multi-level and things like that, I felt like it was going to take me to another level, I would do it. But I still was scared behind it. I would start a little bit, but I wouldn't go to that next level, or I'll just be like, it's going to happen. I had to see it. I got to see it. I got to know what's happening. But over these last couple of years, I'll tell you, just having that faith in God and, manifesting and putting in that work, it's like, okay, it's going to happen. And it has no choice but to happen, because you are putting in that effort. So for me, with Adrienne Pearl, is that faith over fear. It has taken me to so many places that I didn't even know, and has gotten me out of my comfort zone. And I would say that's it.
This might sound like a silly question, but since you gained all this knowledge and you've been able to experience all this, and you've done so many amazing things as far as empowering yourself and others on how to become become more financial savvy, do you feel like this is what you're supposed to be doing?
Absolutely.
Like ultimately, is this, are you are you comfortable in this space, and do you feel like do you feel totally comfortable that this is what you're supposed to be doing?
I absolutely do. Now I am still a little uncomfortable because I know that there's going to be bigger and more things that God has said for me to do. But I'm at peace. When I see people now, especially those that I've known in the school system and things like that, they're like, "Oh my goodness, you're glowing." And so I say yes because I know that I did not do this alone. I know that I went to God in prayer and I did all the things that I was told to do and then did it. So it wasn't me on this journey by myself. So I know absolutely wholeheartedly that this is what I'm supposed to do. I also know that I'm going to be in the community. My goal is to, help our community and things like that. So I definitely feel like that this is my calling. I've always been in a world, like you mentioned earlier, where I'm helping people and providing service. And so I definitely feel like this is my purpose. I really do. Service, educating, providing the resources. Now, whether people take it or not, that's okay. But I definitely feel like this is it. I'm at peace. I am. And then to be able to control my own destiny and to control my own schedule and be able to come and go. Absolutely.
Wow. So what would you say? Oh, and before I even ask you that, you kind of alluded to outside of what you're doing. Like, what are some of the things that you do in your community, or that you do or aspire to do in your community?
So one of the things I do is shout out to my church, First Baptist Church, Logan Park. My pastor, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. I am a trustee at our church, and shout out to Sean Collins because Sean and I went to school together, and he asked me to come on board. I was like, wait a minute now, I need to make sure this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But working as a trustee this last almost year, and I see that this is the purpose. And so I do that in the church. I am actually the scholarship chair for our church as well. That's a passion that I had. I was a scholarship chair for about 5 or 6 years when I was at Bayside High School. So that's another way for me to be able to connect with our students and things like that. I'm also a part of a group called Women for Good, and it's in Virginia Beach. A lot of business owners, we get together, put our resources together, and we give back to nonprofit organizations in the community. And then I just do that on the side anyway. If somebody calls me and says, hey, I want you to be a part of something, like I told you before, if it's supporting my purpose, if it's helping the community, and I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, I'm definitely going to participate. So.
Awesome. Are you kind of alluded to it earlier, but how aware are you that you are a woman of color doing what you're doing? And what I mean by that is, like, when you go forth and you go about your daily business, do you keep yourself, are you conscious of the fact that you are a woman and a woman of color?
Absolutely.
Doing what you're doing. So are you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very, you have no choice but to be aware, especially in today's society. And so going back to the school counselor piece of it, I was over the Health Sciences Academy. And at that time, when I first started, there was not even a lot. The push was to get more minority students and students of color into the academy. So that was one of the pushes, as well as me being maybe like the second minority or African American person on the staff in reference to the Health Sciences Academy. So I was highly aware. I thank God for the connections and the teachers and everyone else that made me feel comfortable and made me feel as if that color didn't matter, but I was still aware of it. I was aware of it when I first started that first year, and I had a student that didn't want to deal with me. And then my principal was like, you are a woman, you are young, because I was young at the time, and then you are Black. So this is what you're gonna face. So my principal actually set me down and gave me that conversation to prepare me for what was at stake. And I'm glad he did, because I had my first experience with a young lady and a young man. I stood my ground with the young man's family. The young lady ended up coming back to me, apologizing, as well as writing me a letter and saying if it wasn't for me, she would not know what her purpose was and being able to apply and go to college. So I'm highly aware of my skin color. I'm highly aware that I am a woman and all of the above. And so I just wanted to share that piece in reference to the education setting. But you already know with the real estate industry, it is the same.
That's interesting, because it's like we kind of joked earlier about you were saying how there are some people who are doctors, but they don't mind if you don't call them doctor,
right,
or whatever,
right,
like that. So the reason why I asked that is that, like, do you want to be looked at as that? You know what I'm saying? Some people want to be, because as you said, there's not much representation.
Correct.
From that ethnic background.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And I want people to feel comfortable. I'm walking in my purpose, and I know who I am. And so I can go into the room, whether it is someone, and I build my relationship. So going back to the school system, whether it was the custodian, I showed respect. Whether it is the superintendent, who I wish had their students in my program, I'm going to treat everybody the same. So as far as that color piece, it is the same. I know what skin tone I am and who I am, but at the same time, I'm going to walk in a room, and that is not going to stop me from my purpose and what I have going on. So if that door does close because of that, that wasn't where I was supposed to be.
Okay, everybody. So this interview is not over, but we are going to change. We're going to change a little bit. We're going to cut this, and we're going to come right back. Okay, so give us a sec. All right.